Okay, I would like to start by saying something about our new friends in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Well, they have taken the suggestions that that Duane made on Skype, and which I transmitted to them in writing. In fact, I wrote, I did something that I posted on Facebook and on all the groups where Africans are mostly concerned, and the reaction has been, they are actually getting together to think about this. We've been having meetings and trying to see how to turn things around. And I think going forward, things will not be the same again. In the short and near and long term, because they took the challenge very seriously. They were even alarmed at the fact that they were just moving in the direction of a religion. See. These are some of the unconscious actions that people engage in. So they were even alarmed at that revelation that they were moving. Their activities were just in line with that of religious bodies, religious bodies that meet and read texts and worship and pray and all the like. So there is a determination to turn things around. I don't know how soon it will be, but the message has hit the ground. So that's that from Africa. So I send greetings. Even one of them from Congo indicated that he will be here today, but I don't think he's there. Tong Jeff. I don't know whether Kelsey has got any request for him or from him to join. Okay. Having said that, I'll go to our very first point for today, which is that of the 5 passions. I've termed the 5 passions and becoming a channel for the real guides. I would imagine that the 5 passions create some kind of smoke that does not let in the light of the real awareness, which is a sound like reality, to penetrate the 5 bodies of a man and bring about the turnaround consciousness that is needed. I've noticed that we have hardly talked about these passions. Is it that one can let them wax strong yet still stand real with the real guides, Duane?
Well, yes, this is something that Paul wrote about, and yes, these are ideas that are still exist in creation. It's all part of creation. I don't really focus on them because everything is choice, and life is an isness. Like like you started off, let's just start off with the kids, and we'll go to the five passions a little bit. The kids in Africa there and what they're doing, and yes, it's easy to kind of cling to the old ways of doing things, which is understandable. It's little by little we edge our way along. We all do this, and it takes a while. This is a bigger journey. This is much, much bigger into standing real in the isness and recognizing this, not just having the idea. So in the meantime, what we've been brought up through, this is what we relate to. It's just very simple. It's easy to relate to. So, the Africans, the world, through the original invaders has been, conditioned with worship, prayer, and God. This is a big deal, and it's very prevalent, and they keep pushing it. And so it seems like so many people do it that, oh my gosh, even though it doesn't really seem to be working in any real direction, but it seems to, it's a reality all its own. So again, it's really choice. Is that what you want to do? It really comes to choice. It's not about right or wrong or belief or any of these things. It's really a choice. And so we move on to the five passions here. And so, yes, the five passions, because you have five bodies. And we have the burden and the task of dealing with these five bodies, which as we grow up here and become more aware of our environment, the old saying, you're the effect of your environment. And this is very true. For the most part, we are the effect of our environment because we are in cause and effect creation. This is what we're in. And as people keep considering that this is the only reality there is, well, this becomes a reality, and they keep being the effect of it. So they try to use good and bad ideas about things, etc. So again, the five passions that Paul went over, and anybody can read these. They were in one of the courses. I wouldn't say he put them in the books, but maybe he did. I don't remember where, but they were in the personal courses. I remember reading those in 1970. I remember reading those, and the five passions. Anybody read them? I'm sure they realized that. Oh, gee, this makes up the personal self. It's more than obvious. But after a while, you start to recognize these things. Is all you do. It's kind of like a child growing up with their parents when they're really little babies, and they wear diapers, and they need their diapers changed. And so, but at a certain point, the child becomes what we call potty trained, or starts to do things themselves. They don't need diapers anymore. They don't need to be cared for. And so this is a process we go through too, with the real guidance. All of us go through this. We need to be cared for a while until we can figure it out on our own. So the five passions are along that line. These are just ideas that we pick up along the way, and they're labeled good, bad, or indifferent, or whatever. And you see this all over the world. You have as an example, you have the pedophiles today, and you have the this and that's, and all these things, and you have the war machine and the politicians and what they do, and they deceive people, etc. So, you have greed, arrogance, anger, lust, and, lust for chasing money and possessions and controlling other people. And it just goes on and on. And so, I would say that I wrote a little about them in book 6, because again, people have real side experiences according to this, and it's hard not to be affected here. It's like a man that goes out and works a job, or a person, anybody, then by the end of the day, they're soiled, or they get in the dirt or whatever, and then they go take a shower, but they can rinse themselves off. So this is what the new you does. It helps rinse you off, and also you decide the clarity of your awareness. And I know I go through a lot here constantly. And also we have the influence. So it's not only the five passions, Charles, but we also have the influence. And today we have microwaves, which are mind control. And I see these things in the air. They're everywhere. And it's very hard to be indifferent to these things. You really have to decide to be so. And then you have tradition too, just like what you're going through, and everybody does traditional ideas and things. And we just went through Halloween here, and to a lot of people that's a big deal. Now we have Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's coming up, and for the most part these are alcohol parties and celebration of ideas. 4th of July, again, ideas. And how do people celebrate this? Well, they continually celebrate it with some form of self or environmental destruction. So boy, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot to decide. And the 5 passions, you see them prevalent through everything, but again, it's choice. Now, if you take the view of, let's say, a little bird sitting on a limb and watching the people do this, the birds, they don't choose any of these things. They have a choice. They see what's going on, and they have a choice. And so each one of us has a choice too. We decide our real environment. That's with what we see ourselves in. I just see it as the isness, but at the same time, I have to deal with the outer world, and the personal self doesn't always feel so along those lines. Have to deal with my personal self too. So, but the 5 passions, I don't really go over these things too much, simply because these things are personal. They're very personal, and they're choices. This is, again, why I suggest to get on with the projects, get on with something, get busy with something that aligns itself as a reference to the isness, you see. And so, that starts to take, that starts to become the environment of the individual. We each have our own environment, and by that very fact, see, then this is how you really, you might say, heal yourself through this personal self. But at the same time, it's not that you're going to be perfect here. It's not about health. It's about awareness. And so you just do the best you can. But, this is where people start to get also lost in these ideals, Charles. They start to look at others and label themselves, but mainly others. It's like, a person will say, well, because they know about the 5 passions, and they'll talk about others and say, well, that person's really vain, or, they're into this, or all they want is money. See, then these things also become talkable ideas. And so I would say it's better to, get projects going, and like you suggested, and you will see the difference in the people, and they will see the difference in themselves. When they focus on something to do. I focus with Ava on making the pictures, and what we're doing, and the galactic part that I'm doing with Claudie, and what I write with the groups. That keeps me busy and focused, etc. And I have my own way of focusing on the isness, etc. So I bring these things into my life, and at the same time, there are little attitudes that creep up with the personal self that I have to deal with, etc., and from others and whatever. But you decide. Each person decides. It's a choice they make, what they want in their life, and it doesn't mean they're going to immediately stop everything. But that's an individual choice. So, what was your take on all this, Charles? That you brought it up. What was your idea about all of this that you brought it up?
Yeah, because I brought it up because we've rarely touched on the 5 passions. I think there is the assumption that those of us here maybe already aware of this. And so maybe it's needless mentioning them, but there are many new people who come on board, especially some people from religions and all the like, and it is good that I thought it's good that we just uh, discuss them. These passions, they are a kind of poison, to the mind, to the individual mind, and to the collective mind, and they can becloud anything that we want to do. Your perception, your recognition of reality, your interaction with the real guides, and then the influence of the sound light reality within your internal environment can be affected by this. By these passions and many of the other things that you have enumerated. So I thought that maybe we should talk a little bit on this, and because we shouldn't give the impression that these 5 passions, that we can brush them aside and yet move on in a forthright manner with as new friends, and within the worldwide, be a good worldwide educator. So I just thought I should bring it up. Yeah, then.
We should have you come to Orange Coast College, where Val went, and discuss this with the administration. That was a little bit of humor, Charles, because we really went through a lot of 5 passions with the administration over there. Val did, yes. A lot of misunderstanding. It's unfortunate. And, when you brought this up, because I know about this, and I don't focus there. It's just like, again, like Paul used the word problem a lot. I don't use the word. It's not found in my books. I decided not to use that. And I don't bring these things up. What I do is because, it's kind of like high school. And yeah, it still exists. And people that have gone through high school, they still have the attitudes of high school. But I don't focus there. I'm not going to say to a person, or refer to myself. It's like, oh, I'm doing what I've done as I did in high school. Well, which I did. I served when I was in high school. I still serve, but I don't refer to it like that. So getting into the psychological nature of the individual, because that's personal. That's really a personal part. And what the individual decides, my view is that I just deal with it or I don't, or I just walk away. And so if a person wants to, whatever, it's like chasing money, having the lust to chase money. We'll just say that's a passion, okay? And it's a person's life's all about money. So we've all been there. We've had to, get money to pay the rent, to do different things. And so referring to these specifically because it's something in creation, this is where I would rather refer to the products, the projects and the new you, and reading the material to start off with, and let the individual decide. Let's see where they want to go instead of getting into those specifics. That's something that each individual can decide to figure out for themselves. Yes. So what I suggest to anybody that gets involved with this, just like what I do, if you see something there that you want to express, etc., then create a group on Facebook as an idea, and a lot of people can see it, and then go in there and discuss that aspect, see who shows up, and then discuss that aspect with them. This is why I've created so many different groups, is because everybody has a way of seeing things and wanting to understand, etc., because these are their steps to recognizing the isness And as I become involved in all this, I continually see more myself, which is really cool. Things just kind of unravel themselves. And so this is why I keep this up all the time, because this is how it is. It's just not going off somewhere and being by yourself, which I like to do that too, but at the same time become very involved, because this is how life is. Life is an activity of waking up to what it is, aside from what we think it is, and just our personal self. That becomes a difference. So the individual makes you decide that. I use comparisons to compare the two, and then from that I decide, okay, this is what I want here or here or whatever. It just depends upon what I'm looking at. If it's the reality of my own being or isness, or if it's a project, etc. Again, this is the adventure that we're in, and so I suggest make a group on that, and possibly start off with grab, if you can, find the material that Paul started with and refer to that, and then bring it around to what is happening, what we're doing today, you see. So again, I can sit here and discuss the 5 passions with somebody, but I would really rather point them into getting busy. Again, it's just like you brought up in the first place. See, this all refers to itself, what the Africans were doing and how they were relating to things. And, you can say that's part of the 5 passions, which it is, because it's old stuff and it's old emotional attachment for the most part, worshiping, prayer, or gods. What, people come into this and then they go back to that. You see, that's their passions. That's part of the 5 passions. So with your understanding, you can bring this around, and as they get involved with something that makes sense, especially today with the natural environment that's being destroyed, yes, it's a challenge, but try and figure something out with it as a start. Well, that takes your attention off that personal stuff, doesn't it? And gets you into a bigger picture of seeing what's going on with yourself, and especially others. When you become involved with others, you take your attention off yourself. I don't want to sit here and think about myself. I look at, because it's that thinking part that gets you in trouble, I look at the isness as much as I can, and what others are doing, and the projects, etc. I keep my attention on that as much as I can, okay, and eventually that takes over. And then I'm still here, but I don't have to reflect upon myself. I like that. I just like being. In other words, the sun is shining, but it doesn't consider itself. It just shines because it's aware. There's a difference. So the personal self considers itself. It's like, oh, I have a new hairdo, or I'm wearing a new dress, or I have new shoes, or whatever it is, etc. Or I'm cuter than everybody else, or whatever. See, it's always considering itself. To where, what's the end result of that? Nothing. You're just going to grow old, and then you're going to be really weird, because you're going to continually consider yourself, and you're not going to like it anymore, because now you're not even going to want to look in the mirror, because you're going to think that's you. So in the meantime, what you could have done is set yourself up with being involved in something that makes sense with others, especially the real guides, the new you, etc., and presenting that. And then this is where you're taken care of by the whole of life, the isness. See, that makes the difference. So this is what I've kept suggesting over the years, as people attend the groups like with Miriam or whatever, as they just sit there and talk, it becomes a very passive position, which is actually part of the 5 passions of the mind too. They become passive with it, and after a while they'll get bored with it, because again, so they're seeing that, okay, well, I've got this knowledge, now what? And the next step usually is, okay, where are the miracles? Okay, why aren't the guides doing this or that? Well, now that you've stepped into the new nowness, it's you. You have to decide what to do. And this is where you decide to create something like I have, the new presentation, Worldwide Educators, and everything we've created along with it, and got an agreement so we all do it together. It's like one big family. Those that agree and step up and do something keeps you involved, keeps you off your personal self. etc. So you see how it works now, Charles. Now, I would suggest to create a group on Facebook and pivot from there and see who shows up and discuss these things, but learn to bring it around to what we're doing today, just like the tree thing. Okay, so I've discussed this with people, and some people think that, oh, okay, we're just doing the tree thing, and we should be concerned about the trees. Well, yeah, in a way, of course, we want trees and oxygen, but the bigger picture is the reason that I've created these things is that these are little breadcrumbs out there to see who shows up, so that we can bring them around to the bigger picture, which is the new you and the isness. So this is just part of what we're doing here, but we're not going to go out and demonstrate and protest people burning down the trees. I'm not going to be doing that. So there's a fine line there. I only go so far with it, because the bigger view is to see if people will take more steps into recognizing what we're really doing. So that's a start, Charles. And if you have an inclination there, I would say go with it, and then but learn to bring it around to the nowness, because if you stay stuck there, like worshiping and prayer that's always been on the earth, then you're stuck, you see? So it's bringing it around to what we are doing now, what is being presented now that makes sense. Because is anybody else in the world doing what we're doing? Oh yeah, the Pope, the Dalai Lama, the masters and gurus and all these spiritual paths and whatever, they look good, don't they? But they're just physical astral, aren't they? That's it. They're not the real connection to the isness, the real universes, because they don't know they exist. We're the only ones doing it. We have the real cure for all, which is recognizing your real awareness and then recognize the isness. So we are exceptional. So you take whatever it is out there. I can take whatever it is out there. I don't care what it is, politics, religion. I don't care what it is, science. I can bring it around to where it makes sense with what we're doing, but yet that's just an aspect. So along the way, the individual has a choice to, whatever part wants to choose. But really what we're doing is that I can connect it. It doesn't mean it's connected to us, but it's a step to recognize what's taking place in the world from the worst things, okay? And this is all beneficial, even though we don't like it. I don't like it, from the chemtrails and whatever, to where you can use it as a benefit to recognize what not to do. That becomes the benefit to eventually recognize what is real. And say, so you bring it around. So there you go, Charles.
Yeah, Duane, I like the way you have fused the thing, and I wish I could remember everything that the way you have put it when I attempt to do something on the group created. In fact, you've blended it so nicely that one can see the 5 passions mirrored in daily activities, you see. And taking a passive position, as you've said, it's just like, it's synonymous to sitting and just talking there. That's a passive position. It's just like you are addicted to one of the passions, you see, and just engage in a repetitive action over and over. The mind has run into one of its ruts, and it's just there, and you have to agitate yourself to take it out of that position by doing something. And then in the process, you forget about yourself, begin to look at the larger picture. In fact, you blended it so well that I did not think about it this way, and I'll try to put these ideas as you have suggested. I hope I will not slip and forget, as it's fresh in my mind.
Charles, I'm going to write a group for you, and you can start from there. But I suggest you learn to write your own, And I suggest everybody do. The groups are fun, and it creates a point. I'm going to call it Passions of Your Mind by Duane, the great writer. And so I will
Okay.
lay this out, okay, and I will just give people, objective views about this, all right? I'm not pointing the finger or criticizing, just like what we do with Harry and the Corporation and Crony Joni, etc. Hey, I'm fine with what she's doing. I'm fine with what the president and the world's doing. It's none of my business. I can't stop it. That's not it. It's not about like or dislike. Oh, I like it or I dislike it. It's not about that. I'm just pointing these things out. In other words, it's kind of saying like, look what you're doing. Is that what you want to do? And so the latest picture that Ava found off of Stan Schultz's site there of Paul, as soon as I saw this picture, I'm going to put it up here, the two pictures, I had an idea because I kind of like Paul's expressions. Paul was, you very seldom, once in a while you saw him smile, but he always had these expressions which are kind of, I found this one very humorous. And so I decided to take the risk and see if I'll be beaten up by this to put him here in the Skypes. Take the risk and put a few little ideas along. And what I did is that I had Ava reverse the picture. So we did two. We did one with Joni, and then one with Harry. And actually had Ava take his mouth and turn it down on the sides a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, because she can do that. She can adjust the picture itself. So I actually had her pull the sides of his mouth down a little bit, so he looked a little more frowning. You see, and he's got that little crinkle across his nose, and she made his eyes bluer. And this was a gray, black and white picture, and then we colored it up, etc. So as soon as I saw it, I had these ideas. I said, grab this picture. I have an idea here. So I used two different ideas and we'll see if, I would say that at least one corporation member would probably wake up from this, you see? Yeah. And so let's see. It's a good picture. He's staring right at you. I like it. I put it up on my screen here sometimes, him and Rebusar, but I like this one. He's just really, very poignant. It just really kind of clears the way. But it's not for everybody. And then we have some smiley ones too, okay, of Rebusar and of Paul, that is. Okay, so whatever you like. A lot of people like the smile, but I like the real position. And Paul and Rebusar on the real side, they're no nonsense. They're straight to it. And so this is where I seem a little hard at times with people, but I'm really not. The idea is that I see what people are going through, and all I'm saying is you don't have to go through that. You can just clear it out, and you'll be fine. That's all. Just get with it. And so a little bit, and practice that. Practice getting with it. Yeah, it's not that you're going to just do it right away. It's like riding a bike. You start to ride it, and you fall over. It's like... you cry and whine and, etc. But you get up, you keep doing it until you got it. You just keep practicing it. And the same with this. Just keep focusing on wanting to recognize what the isness is. See, and the old days was when Paul started, and it made sense. It was, focus on the master. And so, but I don't specify that anymore. It's learning to recognize the isness, the whole of life. This is the bigger picture. And that's a toughie for most people. So they would rather, be babysat and pampered by the personal self, another personal self. But again, it's choice. But I like the endless isness myself, because this is where we all stand real as real beings of light. I see this, and that's what I focus on. And, again, here we have these things. And so this is why, as Ava and I came along, The picture that Ava has on her Skype there, as an example, that's a picture of Ava when she was younger. And that's an actual picture of me in 2001 when I took the real position. A friend of mine, Van Kelsey, took this picture, and he did some websites at the time. He's an insurance person his dad owned the insurance company in Los Angeles here. Since then, I haven't seen Van, but but I like the pictures that Ava and I do now because it's about the real side. You see, it's not the personal self here. It's about getting people to focus to the real side where it's a lot more fun. The physical place here, it's a hard place, and it's gotten really hard and really bad, but it's become a standard. So, all these things implied, etc. But I will I will do a group on this, Charles. You'll see it because you'll be involved. I'll invite you to the group, which I invite you to most of them. But yeah, you decide, every day that comes along, all of a sudden I just, I have my own experiences here and I see things, and all of a sudden, an idea will come along, and it's like, okay, I'll make a group out of that, or I'll do this or whatever, and better explain what we're doing here. And so with this, I see that this can be addressed, but not in the same way. See? Look at how religions cater to these things. They use people and market people and control others with these ideas, especially the sex thing and the passions and the sensations, because most people are into their emotional body, and the sadness and the depression and the anger and the arrogance and the control and all these things. These are really emotional passions that the mind creates as ideas, but adds emotion to them. We see this. It's just so convoluted and gets so mixed up. So, kind of take a look at that. Okay, see these things, but then let's kind of move on, you see? So it's kind of like you're on a bus tour, and, you pass certain things, and maybe you're going to pass the graveyard. Okay, on the right, the tour guy says, oh, look, over there's the graveyard of all the soldiers that have died for their country. But you know what? It's like, okay, that's cool, but okay, when are we going to the beach? When are we getting to the beach? Okay? And play in the water and see the sunshine and whatever. So we saw the graveyard, but we don't want to just sit there and camp out, do we? We want to kind of get past that to where we kind of forget all that. We forget those lifetimes, and we forget these silly things that are going on in this life. We see what's going on. I see what's going on. But at the same time, so what I do is I creatively maneuver it so it brings the attention around to where it makes sense, instead of staying senseless with all this stuff that people attach themselves to and just kind of keep groping over their own misery, you see? So again, it's choice, isn't it? So this is why we have the Skypes, to constantly reiterate this. But the projects, getting those kids, and what's staying on them, kind of manage that, Charles. And also, when you're looking at the 5 passions, look at what they're looking at with worship and religion. These are part of the 5 passions. They're not exempt from that, because again, all this was started as a deception. The God ideas, whatever. That's part of the 5 passions. Is what people are going through, and they're so romantically, encased in their emotional behavior with worshiping and prayer and the gods, and like Harry and the whole idea of the corporation and all these things in the world, in politics. You see it in politics and the Trump thing right now, and all this nonsense. This is what they want. They keep stirring up the world, and so you have a chance to share your points of view and your wisdom, you might say, what you've learned, your experiences, and to bringing it around to what is real. And when you start to recognize the isness, it takes care of all this. It's like a clear day. And so you just practice this isness, this being isness now, you see? So again, that's part of the adventure. Or you stay lost, you stay stuck in all these ideas. Yeah, so the projects are very important. I see that. And so you creatively do that. And The Facebook groups have attracted a heck of a lot of people. At least it gives them a chance to start somewhere. That's how I see it. I'm very grateful for the Nazis that created and the CIA that created Facebook. It's great because they created it to spy on us. Well, I get to utilize it to share with everybody. So it gives them the opportunity, and it keeps me busy too. It keeps me, you might say, out of trouble. You see, instead of me doing all the silly stuff I used to do when I was younger. And so it's a gradual focus. Each individual decides, but you can do this every moment with yourself. You're the decider. And so, yeah, there we go, Charles.